That's the St. Patrick's Day Foundation ringing the closing bell on Wall Street today to celebrate the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade taking place this Friday, the holiday just around the corner. Now, the numbers today on Wall Street, I just want to mention that the indices were up slightly all day, but shot up in late intraday trading upon the news that the Fed is raising interest rates by 0.25%, indicating good news for the economy and more rate hikes to come this year. So taking a look at the numbers, we've got the Dow Jones Industrial up nearly about 0.5%, closing at 20,955. That's up 118 points nearly. The Nasdaq up, closing at 5,900. And the S&P 500 up about 0.8%, closing at 2385. And I also want to take a look at the auto industry because President Trump spoke to auto workers in Michigan today. And as you can see, General Motors right there, last trade about 37 points, up 0.3%. We also have Fiat Chrysler doing extremely well today, up more than 2.5%, closing at about 11 points. And of course, Ford Motor Company last trade about 13 points, up 0.6%. But back to the big economic news of the day. The Federal Reserve raises interest rates for the second time in 3 months and the third time since the financial crisis. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Pila. Fed Chair Janet Yellen announced the increase of 0.25% earlier today, and the move was widely expected after last week's strong jobs report, which saw the 77th consecutive month of added jobs and a fall in unemployment rate of 4.7%. Yellen has said as long as the economy remains steady, it will justify the rate increases, and there may be more to come this year. As Yellen mentioned in the Fed's prediction in December, there would be at least 3 interest rate hikes in 2017. And of course, President Trump reiterated his slogan and pledge to buy American and hire American, saying the assault on the American auto industry is ending under his administration. The president made the comments during a speech to auto workers in the Detroit area today. And during his visit, the president met with the heads of top car manufacturers, including Ford, Fiat, Chrysler, and GM. We just looked at those stocks a moment ago, and he says those companies have already announced keeping nearly 4,000 jobs in Michigan and has vowed to end job-killing regulations. And the president also teased a big announcement pertaining to the auto industry coming next week. He'll now meet with the mayor of Flint, Michigan to discuss the water crisis. And after his stop in Michigan, Trump will head south to Tennessee, where he's set to hold a campaign-style rally at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. And ahead of the rally, he's expected to make a stop at the Hermitage to lay a wreath on the grave of former President Andrew Jackson. Now, the president's voiced admiration for Jackson in the past, even hanging a portrait of the former leader in the Oval Office. You see it there. And it's his first visit to Tennessee since the election season, after having won both the Republican primary and general election in the state. One America's Trey Yingst is at the White House with more.
Hello, that's right. I want to start this afternoon with...
And before the president hit the skies to Michigan, he fired off a series of tweets in response to MSNBC's report on his 2005 tax returns. The president sent out a tweet today questioning the legitimacy of how a reporter, quote, no one has heard of, got a hold of an alleged copy of his taxes. The president's been skeptical over stories with anonymous sources and believes this case is just another instance of fake news reporting. But while one liberal media anchor thinks she may have the scoop, it may actually land her behind bars. Here's more.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax returns.
And Corey Lewandowski is chiming in on the tax return issue, telling One American News it's a, quote, nothing story.
What's amazing is the liberal left now cannot any longer claim that Donald Trump isn't really as rich as he says he is, because we all know he's exceptionally rich and wealthy and has had a very successful career, and that he isn't paying his taxes, because this clearly shows he is. And so this became an absolutely nothing story.
The former Trump campaign manager and OAN political commentator adds, it's clear evidence President Trump paid his taxes and did not cheat the system, as many liberals accuse him of. He also claims even President Trump's critics say this is the appropriate tax rate he should be paying based on the income which he declared. He adds President Trump did not authorize the release of his tax return, and it is indeed illegal to publish it without their permission. Well, FBI Director James Comey is set to testify Monday at a hearing on Russia's meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Comey officially accepted the invitation today after he was invited by the House Intelligence Committee earlier this week. He's also expected to be asked about President Trump's claims the Obama administration had wiretapped him during the campaign. And speaking at the Capitol today, leaders of the House Intelligence Committee say there appears to be no indication Trump Tower had been wiretapped.
Evidence still remains the same, that we don't have any evidence that that took place. And in fact, I don't believe, just in the last week of time, the people we've talked to, I don't think there was an actual tap of Trump Tower.
Comey will reportedly confirm whether the FBI is investigating the president's potential ties to Russia during a Senate hearing later today. And former Senator Dan Coats will take the reins of 16 national intelligence agencies as the full Senate votes to approve his confirmation. Senators voted 85-12 on Coats' nomination, with only a simple majority needed to approve the former lawmaker. President Trump's nominee cleared a cloture vote hours earlier, and once sworn in, Coats will be responsible for overseeing the intelligence communities. 2 Russian spies are among the 4 people being charged by the Justice Department for the massive data breach of Yahoo email accounts. Fred Katayama reports.
The U.S. Justice Department indicted 4 people for...
And President Trump appoints former Goldman Sachs executive James Donovan as Deputy Treasury Secretary. On Tuesday, the White House made the announcement that Donovan will be working alongside Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Reports say Donovan supported Mitt Romney and Jeb Bush's presidential campaigns. He is expected to help develop the president's domestic policies. Donovan's the 5th former or current Goldman Sachs executive to join the Trump administration. A Senate panel approves Trump's pick to be the second in command of the Department of Homeland Security. Elaine Duke's nomination to be the Deputy Secretary of the DHS was voted on today, sending it to the full Senate. Duke has nearly 30 years of experience working with the federal government. She last worked for the DHS in 2010 as the Undersecretary for Management under former Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama. If approved by the full Senate, Duke will be the Chief Operating Officer in charge of Homeland Security. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is in Japan as he begins his tour of Asia. Tillerson will meet with his counterpart and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe amid heightened tensions over North Korea. The meeting will not only focus on security issues, but also trade, now that the U.S. has pulled out of the TPP. He'll then travel to South Korea to meet with members of the interim government after the country's president was recently impeached. His final stop will be in China, where he'll meet with leaders to discuss political and economic differences. China is calling for a diplomatic truce over the issue of increasing aggression from North Korea. Today, the Chinese premier, who is the equivalent of a vice president, called for all parties to return to the negotiation table.
So what we hope is that all the parties concerned will work together to de-escalate the situation, get issues back on the track of dialogue, and work together to find proper solutions. It's just common sense that no one wants to see chaos on their doorstep.
The premier was speaking at China's annual parliament session, which concluded today. Last week, the Chinese foreign minister suggested the U.S. stop partaking in joint military drills with South Korea. The U.S. government dismissed the proposal, and it was not discussed during the parliament session. The GOP is putting ISIS in its crosshairs as Republicans ready a new bill to fight the terror group. When America's Pearson Sharp has the latest details on how Republicans plan on defeating terrorist fighters.
The fight against Islamic terrorism is gaining ground as Republicans...
And 16 suspected terrorists for the Islamic State are behind bars in Turkey. Authorities say they got a tip-off and captured the men in simultaneous raids on houses in a southeastern province. Turkey's been escalating efforts to drive out Islamic terrorists both at home and in neighboring countries like Syria. A massive military offensive was launched in August, with Turkish forces pushing into Syria to secure the country's dangerously open border. Numerous ISIS safe houses have also been raided since the group was found responsible for attacking an Istanbul nightclub on New Year's Eve. Coming up ahead on this hour, a winter storm continues to affect the Northeast with sleet, snow, and heavy wind gusts. The impact of the storm and what officials are telling locals on the other side of the break.